But please be upstanding to the Mayor for the Borough of Melton, Councillor Alan Hewson.
Good evening and welcome to this meeting of Melton Borough Council. Evacuation procedure. In the event of having to evacuate the council chamber, please leave by one of the 6 emergency exits around the sides of the chamber. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park nearest to the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist persons who require any assistance. Public recording of the meeting. There is legislation that allows the public to film, record or use social media at a council meeting. This must not be disruptive to the good order of the meeting, nor include any filming or recording of the public seating area. Please switch mobile phones to silent. Microphones. Members are asked to physically raise their hands in the usual way to indicate they wish to speak, and to use their microphones when speaking for the benefit of all present. The microphone is live when the red light displays. Here's the new one. Electronic voting. Tonight we will be trialling the electronic voting system. This means that all votes will be carried out via the microphone handsets. When voting is taking place, you will be given 3 options: yes, abstain, and no. And there will be 3 buttons flashing beneath the options. When the voting is open, members will need to select the corresponding button in order to register their vote. Pre-election period. I would just like to remind everyone that due to the forthcoming Ashby by-election, we are now in a pre-election period, and as such, we are in a period of heightened political sensitivity. Please can I ask all councillors to be mindful of this when speaking at council tonight, and to avoid making comments which could be construed as being unduly party political. I will intervene in the event that I consider that a member is not observing this request. And so please can I ask members to refrain from raising points of order on this point. Thank you. I will now invite Reverend Dr. Mary Barr to offer prayers. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation to be here and offer a prayer. There isn't a button to press to say Amen at the end, but if you would like to, do join in saying Amen at the end of this prayer for your meeting. Lord God, we give you thanks and praise for the freedom in which we live, for justice and order in our society, for standards of truth and honour, and for all our rights and privileges. This evening we thank you especially for the life of the town of Melton Mowbray and the surrounding villages, and for all who share in our community's activities. We give thanks for the work of our mayor and all those elected to serve as councillors, and for the council staff who support them in serving this locality. We pray that they may exercise wisely and faithfully the authority entrusted to them to promote the welfare of all people and seek the common good, that all may live together in peace, safety, and harmony. This we pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Members, we will now have a minute's silence for the unfortunate fatal shooting of Carrie Slater in Long Clawson last week. Can we please be upstanding for a minute's silence? Thank you. Apologies for absence. Apologies for absence have been received from councillors Freer and Pritchett. Please.
Mr. Mayor, I thought he was going to be here, but Councillor Brown seems to be absent as well.
Thank you. So that's a total of 24. Can anybody else got any apologies? No. The minutes now, item 2. To confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on the 27th of July 23. Do I have a proposer, please?
Happy to propose, Mr. Mayor.
And a seconder, please.
Happy to propose.
Thank you.
Or second, sorry.
Do any members have any comments to make in relation to the accuracy of the minutes? No. Please can you use the electronic voting system in front of you to choose either for, against, or abstain? I can confirm that is unanimous. Thank you. Declarations of interest. If any members would like to indicate that they have an interest to declare, could they please do so by raising their hand? Councillor Orson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was waiting for you to do the bit about the county council, but I wish to declare a personal and pecuniary interest in items 10, 11 and 12, the local plan, as a landowner. Thank you.
Councillor Hawes.
I wish to also, I've got a personal and pecuniary interest with items 10, 11 and 12 on the agenda with relation to owning land that could be down for development. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Thank you. It is read that Councillor Joe Orson is taken as being on record as any matters in relation to Leicestershire County Council. Only 12 pages this week. The Mayor's announcements. I will go through it briefly then. Starting from the end of July, we went to the DATR, the vet camp as we all know it, the open day, and then the next day to the Soldiers Charity Summer Lunch. These are all really well attended, and the open day was, I know it was a very nice day, but the amount of people that were walking up from the town, it was really pleasing to see the support that they obviously get through that side. I've never seen so many of the town folk there. Then we went to the leaving service for the Reverend Pat Ollivant. She's always been part of coming and doing the prayers for the council while she was here. She was also the local padre to the armed forces, and has always been there for assistance if ever I needed her. And so I thought it only right that I should go to her service. We then went to North West Leicestershire's Chairman Charity Dinner, which was a nice evening. We went to Wexford House, which is on Burton Road, to their garden party. I didn't really know it was there, but it's the serviceman's house for the Air Force. There used to be 8 of those around the country, and now Melton is the only one left. But it is full, and they were really pleased that we'd actually acknowledged they were there. We then went to the Ukrainian Independence Day at Melton Church. Went to the Lord Mayor's Civic Service. Then there was the summer social here, which I thought was really well attended by all the staff. And my deputy as well going to that event. We then met with the new air cadet for next year, and that was a really nice evening. Yes, I know you're going to smile in there, because I call him Marmon then, because that's all I know him as. And he asked me if I wanted to take part in the drill practice, because they were getting ready for the parade on the Sunday, and I think to his shock I said yes, and so they did actually put us in the junior section, so we did actually do some drill practice, and yes, I enjoyed myself. Thank you very much, and thank you for the advice on how to do it properly. I then went to the NSA sheep fair in Melton. That's always quite amusing if you're a farmer as well as the mayor, because farmers, yes, farmers are farmers. We went to the Blaby Chairman's home event at the council offices there. We then went to the Commandery of King Offa of commemorative service at Burton Lazars. And this is to commemorate the actual leper hospital that was there. And the last time that anybody was there to commemorate this was 400 years ago. And it was really interesting, all the full history of it, which goes right back to St. Paul in Jerusalem, where it started. We then had the Battle of Britain parade, where there was 120 cadets there parading. I might be a little biased then, but I did think that the Melton had the best parade and the best marching and the best turned out. Thank you very much. We then went to Scorford, their produce and craft show, which, although being a small show, it just started up again. It was really interesting to be there. Graham Greaves and myself, he enrolled me to sort of take part in with the auction of all the produce afterwards, and it was quite a fun afternoon. We then went to Sainsbury's for the Teams for You Christmas shoebox appeal launch, which is something I learned a lot more about. One of the ladies came from Nottingham, and she was saying that each shoebox has to be gone through, looked through to see if it's all above board and everything's as it should be. But the strangest thing they ever had was a dead budgie in a box. And so they just wondered, what did they bury in the garden instead? And then apart from that, I've got some shoe boxes here and leaflets. So if any councillors want to take one, because they had in their appeal last year, they filled 500 shoe boxes, and they'd like to see if they can get it to 1,000. So if anybody you know in Melton or the surrounding villages or area, there's this shoebox appeal launch, which is at Sainsbury's, Tesco's and Morrison's. And they've got it in various other places as well. So if anybody would like to support that, I think it's well worth it. We then went on a busman's holiday to a farm visit at Rutland with the chairman for Rutland. And that was a nice, interesting afternoon. Thank you. It was then the Harvest Festival service, and just like to thank everybody that went there to support me. We had then the Tenants Gardens Recognition Scheme. This is the first time they've done this at the council. Many thanks to Michelle and all their team. They put a lot of work into this, and the people that came forward, I think, were really pleased with it. And I think it's something we can build on as a council to make it more and more inclusive of different tenants. And then this week, I was at lunch with the county chairman. I didn't realise that before the county meetings that they actually have a 3-course lunch as well. But admittedly, the councillors do pay for this, but it was quite a shock to actually see this. So that's it for my announcements. Do you want to mention anything about yours?
I can say quickly.
Yep.
I haven't prepared anything, but like I said before, I'd like to support the mayor as much as I can. Mine. Yes, I've been to a few functions to help Alan out. An evening with the cricket legends down the Melton Theatre, which are very close to my heart, cricket and stuff, and Mike Gatting and a few other celebrity cricket players. That was a really interesting night. Also did some civic service receptions, went to the civic reception for the Mayor of Boston, obviously Boston itself. I came to the summer social, as indicated by Alan, Mr. Mayor. And last I went to, Battle of Britain parade, I was with the town estate, but afterwards, in the afternoon, I went to the Southcote Stephens civic service at Stamford, which is rather good because I won the raffle. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Now I'd like in this part of it to hand out the certificate to the outgoing Mayor's Cadet and appoint a Mayor's Cadet until the council meeting in September 24, and to give the presentation as well, please. If Flight Lieutenant Burrows wants to give his presentation first, then we can do the certificates after.
It's going to be a quick 5-minute presentation about what I've done with the mayor and how I've supported him in the last year, as well as a little bit outside of cadets in my last year as well. You can see there, that was this night a year ago, roughly. That was Corporal Bartram, who was a previous mayor's cadet before me. So again, a very similar night to tonight. So these are the events I've done supporting the mayor. The first one then was Remembrance Day wreath laying, where I laid the wreath on Remembrance Day on behalf of the mayor. That was a really memorable event, laying the wreath at the, can't remember what the house is called, but where the Remembrance Parade ends, as well as in the church. And then the Christmas carol service as well, supported the mayor doing a reading, as well as handing out tokens to children as well. That was good. Armed Forces Week flag raising. So this was at the council offices, I think July it was. I was there with the other military from the DATR as well and the RAF police. And I was just there to support that event as the flag was raised. And also I attended an annual general council meeting, which is where I found out that the mayor was re-elected for his second year. I also, last week, this isn't on the presentation, but last weekend I was at the mayor's harvest service where I did a reading and supported the mayor there as well, which was a good event. So some of the things I've done in cadets outside of with the mayor, but a lot of other things I've done this past year. So the first thing is getting my method of instruction course. So that's this yellow lanyard here that qualifies me to teach and instruct cadets and give presentations effectively. Also the cadet drill course, so that's teaching me how to instruct drill to cadets. Remembrance Parade, I've obviously already mentioned that, but that was quite a big event. The SNCO course, or senior NCO course, so that's training us to be effective NCOs and to lead cadets effectively. Wing and region sports, I attended region sports, which is quite high level. So that's about 1/6 of the country of the air cadets that you're going against. So it's quite a high level thing. I've done that for tag rugby, athletics, as well as cross country, as well as swimming as well, and done really well in all of those events. I was also selected to be a flight commander on Swinnerton Camp. So this is a big camp in our wing, which is green zone, as you can see. And I was selected to be a flight commander to lead a flight of 16 cadets for a week, which was a hard challenge, but it was really good and definitely developed me as a person. Also on that Swinnerton Camp, my flight came 3rd out of 12 flights, so I was really happy with that. It's all scored off the event, how well you do on each event, so I was really pleased when I heard my flight come 3rd. That there as well, that photo up there, top left, Air Cadet Leadership Course, or ACLC. So this is where you get your Gold Leadership Badge, which is the highest qualification of leadership you can do in the Air Cadets. So that was a really hard week. It was really good as well. Drill and ceremonial camps. This is a camp which was down at Pirbright, which is where the Army basic training is done. This was just last August and not long ago. We were taught rifle drill for the whole week. It was quite physical, but it was really good. Made really good friends, as well as just had a really good time. And the final parade on that was really good as well. Doing proper rifle drill with white gloves and everything, it looked really good. And also Belgium battlefield trip. This was just the beginning of September. So this was in Belgium. We went there for 4 days over a weekend, visited lots of battlefields during World War I. It was really interesting. We also took part in a parade in Ypres as well. That was really good. Quite a memorable time as well. So my past year outside of the squadron. So I've completed a level 3 computer science BTEC. I'm working as a lifeguard, mostly almost full time at the moment now. And learning to drive, I actually just passed my test yesterday. So thank you. As well as lots of running and mountain biking, they're probably the things I enjoy most in life. So I've kept them going a lot. So that's what I've been doing outside of the squadron. I am also applying for the RAF, but that's taken quite a while. So I'm just seeing how it goes with that. But that's the plan for the future. At this point, I'd just like to thank the mayor for supporting me through this role and giving me the opportunity. It's been really good. So thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity. It's been really good. Thank you. Got a bit of a slideshow, some photos from the last year that I'll let you watch through. Thank you for listening to our presentation. I hope you found it interesting. I'd also like to wish Flight Sergeant Wheatley back there the best of luck for her year as Mayor's Cadet. I'm sure she'll do really well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we all must agree that he had quite an incredible year, and I think we could all give him another round of applause, please. Thank you. I'll now take this opportunity to hand out the certificates for both cadets, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Item 5 now, leaders' announcements. I'll invite the leader, Councillor Olnett, to make his announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And may I say, I think all our officers should learn from that last PowerPoint presentation. No talking, very quick, and no handouts. Mr. Mayor, it's just 150 days since the election, 4 months since our annual meeting, and 2 months since we last met. In that short time, the independent and Labour groups have become two hearts beating as one. Before we meet again, Debbie will be making an honest man of Councillor Higgins, and I congratulate them both and wish them well for the future. I've just one piece of advice for Councillor Higgins. When it comes to your mother-in-law, just say yes. I always do. Now, referring to the minutes, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I attended the charity football match that's mentioned. It was a game of two halves. In the first half, I had to retrieve the ball from the bushes, and in the second half, I was retrieving the ball from the river. I regret to say that the blue shirts tended to pour more goals into the net, even though the red shirts were the superior team. I'm sure the rematch at Asford will be a better game. Now, I popped into the mental health network yesterday, and I visited several of the stands and found the emphasis on young people both revealing and challenging, particularly in these post-COVID times. I've attended 2 induction meetings for new staff. We have conducted the Chief Executive's annual appraisal, and I'm grateful to Councillor Graham for his input. And I'm very happy to confirm that he still has a job. Now, that's the Chief Executive, not Councillor Graham, you understand. I visited 3 wards, Bottisford, of course, Craven, where there is a serious legacy risk from flooding, and I visited another ward twice, but I won't mention that name for fear of transgressing election rules. Now, we've had an early focus for the new council, as I've previously made mention on several occasions, and we are taking these forward. Members will receive further details on the members bulletin board next Friday, and it's this document here, and it will be worth a good look. It will be worth a good look. Sorry, it has 3 clear themes, which is a cleaner, greener borough, strengthening our connectivity with our communities, and a more inclusive and collaborative council. Regarding Waterfield, we are now dealing with the very serious legacy problems. Progress is being made. A sensible capital programme is being developed. We were disappointed to be refused a revenue grant from government just this week, but we have applied for a capital sum. Preparation for the new management contract for Waterfield and Sports Centre at MSV, started really by the previous administration, for which I thank them, is in hand, but of course it's of a commercial nature and confidential at this stage. we've had our preparation.
I think I might have a pecuniary interest because I'm a member of the Waterfield Leisure Centre. So I think I'll go out while he's doing this. I will go out. Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, it's perfectly all right, councillor, for you to remain because you're not being asked to vote. This is the leader making an announcement rather than a vote. So you're
Yeah, I
absolutely
think-
fine.
I think I would prefer to go out at this point, actually. I think I would like to.
It's your decision.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's your
Thank you.
I expect she's just bored listening to me, really. Regarding the corporate strategy, the current 4-year one expires in April next year, and the next one will run to 2036, and it will be more ambitious and visionary. And part of that vision is a full replacement swimming facility heated from an adjacent data centre, which will be called in the process. This will enable a neutral carbon footprint. There will, of course, be solar panels. I thank Councillor Graham for supporting the corporate strategy seminar, but I have been a bit disappointed that Conservative opposition has chosen to boycott 2 of our new working groups. And I do ask them to think again on that, because I welcome their input on a cross-party basis. I've met the Police and Crime Commissioner several times now, and the last meeting was to receive his nomination for the appointment of his new chief executive, and the panel were very content. Now, Councillor Cox is no longer has a possible conflict of interest and is now fully able to attend the panel, and in my opinion will bring to it much more expertise than I do because of her work experience. So she'll be picking up the reins there. 2 interesting points from the Police and Crime Commissioner, which I think is worth remarking upon, and it does reflect well on the previous administration, I have to say, and that's that we in this borough have made full use of Section 106 contributions for the police service and have made an impact there. And indeed, this borough has benefited from grants bestowed by the Police and Crime Commissioner. So that's a bit of good news, I think. I've had the opportunity to catch a conversation with our new Melton and Rutland Police Inspector, Darren Richardson, and he's kindly agreed to meet a cross-section of members to get to know and have an informal exchange on policing issues. Not a big speech, but more of a get to know, really, as I say. And I hope that members from across the chamber will, as a selection, will have a chance to meet with him. I've met with our MP, Alicia Cairns, and I was pleased to do so with her office manager and the chief executive. And it was constructive, and I'm certain that we can rely on her full support in her final months with us. I raised an important legacy issue, which is a case of flooding and potential sewage problem in Melton, and she assured me of her assistance if it proves necessary. I must say that as of today, I've been getting a lot of help from Severn Trent, so I'm a bit more optimistic than I was when I met her. So I thank her for this, and we did agree that in public life, it was acceptable to have a robust difference on policy, but we should refrain from personal attacks. And that brings me on to something which I know will be a bit difficult to hear, Mr. Mayor, but I feel I need to articulate it at this moment. Last council meeting, we had a unanimous decision on the debate, not hate motion. And I regret that we and our officers continue to be the subject of unfair, abusive slurs and denigration on social media. One apology has been received. For myself, I have a very thick skin. For officers, it is worse because they are professionally neutral. We live in a free society, and every citizen is entitled to live in a place of their choosing to suit their changing family needs. To suggest that they cannot perform their jobs properly because of this is deeply insulting. Furthermore, while I have never hidden my intense dislike of the Levelling Up Fund process, to suggest that our officers, or indeed any elected members from anywhere in this chamber, are corrupt is completely unacceptable. We are no longer governed by 40 thieves, but we are governed by the Nolan principles. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting me say that. I've had a meeting accompanied by Councillor Jim Adcock with the leader of Rutland County Council, and obviously we discussed the Levelling Up Fund and how it's going to work in practice. I think more of that later, really. I've had a meeting at Latham House about shared concerns and future aspirations. On the GP surgery, I ought to say that things are moving along a little bit slowly, but we've had a good response from the ICB, and we'll know a lot more of their intentions on the 23rd of October. Obviously, there will be consequences to their decision, and we can have the opportunity to discuss that at a later date. I've had a meeting with the head of Brooksby College. This was prior to the recent news with regard to them, and I was concerned with a variety of things. The courses that they're not running in Melton, the future of the Melton site, and of course the Levelling Up Fund. And that was quite constructive, and I look forward to further discussions. And I know there are a small group of members going to the site at Brooksby in the near future. I've met, when was it, last week, I think now, the heads of Longfield, Fernley schools and Melton Vale Sixth Form, and we shared concerns and discussed some areas of cooperation. Regarding the bid, which is an important partner in what we're doing, it only has a small annual budget of about £168,000 a year, but I've met with the chair and with the manager and tried to set up a dialogue to resolve any outstanding problems that we may feel we have, and to emphasise to the bid as a body.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, can I just quit? Can we have Marilyn back in? She's missing out on the things.
Yeah, thank you. Shall I pause? No, thank you. Sorry. Yes, I was quite anxious. No, that's the wrong word. I was quite keen to emphasise to the members of the bid that in the town we have a number of initiatives which are overlapping with the council itself, the town estates, and of course the UK SPF funding. And it's important that we try not to duplicate things or omit things. And I think that dialogue is quite helpful, and I hope to carry it forward. On the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, we've now set up the local area board, as we are required to do by government legislation. And we have created the two boards for receiving grant applications for businesses and for community grants. The business grant application process is being published this week. It has been already, and I hope that members will be able to see it very, very shortly, and everyone can get a good opportunity to apply for those grants. I want to say one thing that I'm a bit concerned about. The legal and statutory requirements around due diligence does require us to spend quite a long time in processing those applications, and I will be asking officers to see if we can shorten that legally, of course, but I'm very certain that we must maintain a high standard of due diligence when we're processing those applications. I was very pleased at the local area board to receive the comments from the East Midlands Chamber of Commerce, the Federation of Small Businesses, and the NFU, and their contributions that they made, and they were very constructive, and I thought it was a very good session, and they were pleased. They told me that afterwards. And it may be worthwhile mentioning that with the NFU, we have had further discussions, and I'm quite anxious to revive quite an old institution here, which some older members will remember, and have some sort of rural and farming forum in which I would be delighted if the four farmers, practicing farmers on this council and your deputy, Councillor Webster, would participate in that, because I'm a great believer in using real knowledge of practical affairs to discuss issues of concern. It won't be a working group and it won't meet with lots of minutes and things, but I just want to get a grip on that really as a council, and I hope you'll be able to support on that. On the Levelling Up Fund as such, I think it's appropriate to put members in the picture as to what's happening at this stage. So far as the Rutland dimension is concerned, we are looking at a transport system that connects Oakham and Melton, going through two sets of villages. That was the purpose for which the money was granted. That was one of the projects. It's early days yet. I don't know much more about it at this stage, but we've had a discussion, and I'm sure that will be coming forward to the next LUF board in due course. We know about the college. That seems to be okay so far as we know, and we've got to complete the back-to-back legal deal with them to facilitate the transfer of money from government to Rutland to us to them, but that will go through. So far as our site is concerned, and I'll call it the stock market, although it's much more than that really. So far, we've let the contract so that the site inspections can be undertaken. That's drilling down and boreholes and what have you. And the architect has started doing the designs. Councillor Glancy and I have met with him once, and he's going to meet with the whole cabinet in the near future. We're determined that the quality of the design as well as the functionality should blend in well. Of course, there's lots of discussion to be had about functionality, and I don't want to prejudice that discussion. But I'm hoping at every stage that we can gradually mushroom out so that more and more people are aware of what's going on, and at the appropriate stage have a good look in it. It's a project which has got lots of controversy and lots of fear, but the important thing is that we spend the money and we spend it well, and we don't do anything that undermines other efforts in the town centre and with the town estate in what they're doing. All business is competition, but we must promote fair competition, and that will be my watchword. I did attend the members advisory group previously. Now Councillor Glancy is doing that. That's on a natural adjunct to her role on planning, and I'm very pleased she's picked that up. Yesterday I attended online the meeting of the 7 Leicestershire districts with the upper tiers. That's the city and the county and Rutland to discuss issues of common interest, and those issues will spawn, I suppose, new ideas and new policies, and they will be made known to everybody in due course. I must mention MMDR South, that's the Distributor Road South. Last cabinet meeting, we agreed a response to a series of negotiations, discussions and letters between ourselves and the county. I think it was a good decision, and it was one in which we found common ground with the county, and I'm looking forward to helping and supporting the county to get this task done. I don't know whether it's going to be done before HS2, but we'll wait and see. I've tried to meet up with county councillors, and this is not a complaint. Our combined diaries are very difficult to get into proximity. We've had one proposed meeting with the leader and the deputy leader at County Hall. I hope we can push that forward. And that, Mr. Mayor, you'll be pleased to know, is the finish of my announcements.
Thank you very much. Item 6, public question time. No questions have been received. Item 7, questions from members. 2 questions have been received and they will be taken in the order in which they were received. I'd first like to invite Councillor Higgins to ask the first question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just very briefly like to echo the leader's comments in regards to what he was saying about protection for members and officers from such commentary that is possibly defamatory and quite insulting to officers of this council. And I full-heartedly support those officers and members who are subjected to it. The question I'd like to ask the leader is, following the debate of the with councillors at the State of Melton event and subsequent scrutiny meeting, could the leader clarify the arrangements and actions in relation to the car parking arrangements and the income to the council with respect to the cattle market lease? Also, could the leader confirm the income from this specific arrangement is for the general fund use for the council? Thank you.
I'll now invite the leader, Councillor Allnett, to provide a response.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Higgins, for that question. The profile of the income is rather shrouded in mystery insofar as members will be aware that there is a 7-year inland revenue rule, so that records can go missing if they go back beyond 7 years. And I'm grateful to our officers for filling in some of the gaps. I'm not going to recite all the numbers because that would be a bit tedious, but they're going to be published in the minutes as a table attached to the minutes and on the members' bulletin board, so everybody can see the numbers. There is a trend over quite a long period of decreasing rent from car parking on that site. In part, it was a little bit due to COVID. It was certainly occurring before then, and it was occurring slightly before the new leases. It does go into the general fund as far as I understand it, but I'm waiting for some more information on that, and I will provide a written response on those figures. The difficulty with the rent on car parking as it stands at the moment is that it reflects a mutual understanding about how the leases will work in practice because of decisions made in the run-up to the preparation for the LUF. Now, those decisions were taken in good faith with a view to not duplicating construction work. In other words, if the work of the LUF was going to commence quite soon, it would not make sense to do work on the existing car parking on what is known as Site E. And therefore, that was not undertaken. And there was a degree of flexibility, shall we say, in the car parking charging arrangements. Now, this has left us with an anomaly insofar as the charging on the cattle market site is slightly to the detriment of car parking elsewhere in the town. It's an ongoing problem, and the officers and the cabinet are determined to get a practical solution to what is a short-term difficulty. But I thank Councillor Higgins for the question, and I will post more detailed response on the members' website to accompany the numbers.
Thank you. Councillor Higgins, if you wish, you may also put one supplementary question. In accordance with the procedure rules, may I remind you that the supplementary question must arise directly out of the original question or the reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, thank you for the response there, and I do welcome that you'll respond, and I'm sure to the whole council in the response from the specifics in regards to the arrangements and specifically to the general fund. And the reason I mention the general fund is car parking income for the council tends to have to be ring fenced for reinvestment either back into car parking or environmental use, where this arrangement, if I am correct, in regards to the general fund, it can be spent for other revenue services, such as whatever the council deems fit for revenue.
Councillor Higgins, can you go to your question,
No,
please?
that's fine. In regards from the general fund for the revenue, and in regards to that, could the leader reply to this council what plans he or the cabinet may have in regards to some arrangements that came from and debate that came from the State of Melton event in regards to changes to car parking and making it more proactive and better for the customer and the users of Melton's car parks, such as I know Councillor Lumley has talked about tap and go kind of and pay on exit as an example. Thank you.
Well, the direct answer to that question is that at the current time, of course, we've got no plans. That would be wrong to say we've got plans. It's certainly true to say we've got lots of ideas, and we will take those forward within the framework of the first 4 years of the corporate strategy, so we can start to prepare. I think Councillor Lumley is fully aware that I am on the same page as he is with respect to the technology. I think it would be a good idea, but we've got to assess certain things first. We've got to assess what will the impact of the construction work on the stock market site have on the overall capacity of car parking that's available. What capacity do we need overall? And that, of course, includes the private sector and the Melton Town estates. And where should it be? Then the next stage is the charging policy to make it fair and reasonable, and also offer a reasonable income to this council. And then lastly, we have the technology. And that, of course, is the expensive item, which is why I don't think we can expect to do it at the beginning of the 4-year period. We're more likely to be able to implement it at the end. But the jury is out, and it would be wrong of me to make promises now or commitments that I can't fulfill later. We will have to look at that within the budgetary cycle and considering all the technological implications. But I think it's a worthwhile part of our vision to reach that destination.
Thank you. I would now like to invite Councillor Cliff to ask the second question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is the leader aware of the latest CQC inspection of maternity services, which found a deterioration in the level of care being provided for those using maternity services at both the Leicester Royal Infirmary and Leicester General Hospital, dropping ratings for both hospitals from good to requires improvement? In contrast, inspectors of our own midwife-led unit here in Melton praised staff, saying they should be proud of the safe care they were providing. Now, we were assured as part of the plans that earmarked St Mary's Birth Centre for closure that this was a relocation and that St Mary's would not close until the new unit was open on the Leicester site currently under development. So in light of this concerning CQC report, will the leader please write to the Trust on behalf of our whole community to insist that the condition would remain and that St Mary's Birth Centre should not be closed prematurely in order to prop up failing services elsewhere?
I now invite the leader, Councillor Allnett, to provide a response.
The short answer is yes, I am aware. And if I wasn't aware, I certainly am now. I will write on behalf of the council. I think it's right that we should asked this question. Of course, we have no power to insist on this, but it is rather symptomatic of the way things are organised across our nation and with the health service. These assurances are often lost if we don't insist on reminding them that they were made. Otherwise, they become valueless in what they're saying to us. I do understand from the advice I've been given that there is a propensity that nowadays for ladies to prefer to get home quicker than they used to after giving birth. I don't know about this. You know, I'm a great granddad now. It's long since I had anything to do with that sort of thing. And because of this tendency, the requirement to stay for long periods in a place nearer to home is receding slightly. Now that may change. I don't know. People are entitled to make choices, but part of the choice really ought to be able to be near your family, having given birth. In my humble opinion and my experience through life. So I will certainly write, and I think it's worthwhile raising this, because if we don't do it now, it will get forgotten about, and then it will slip through, and that's not right.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff, if you wish, you may also put one supplementary question. In accordance with the procedure rules, may I remind you that the supplementary question must arise directly out of the original question or the reply.
Thank you. Yes, I do have one supplementary question. Grateful for the leader's support in at least pressing, reminding those that have made this decision of their obligations to our community. Now, in the event that St Mary's Birth Centre does very sadly close, because that decision does seem to have been taken, and obviously people will know that I would prefer it to remain open, but in the event of its closure, is the leader aware of any proposals around that site being used to ensure local maternity service users are looked after with as much excellence as they are now? For example, as a site for pre and postnatal care, including breastfeeding support and maybe maternal mental health services. I'm mindful it's the postnatal provision that users of St Mary's are particularly vocal in support of. And of course, this was specifically highlighted for praise by the CQC report as well. So I'm sure none of us would want that aspect to be lost, regardless of what happens to the actual birthing centre aspect of the building. I'd be grateful if the leader could share any thoughts that he has on that, if he has any.
Well,
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I do have some thoughts. On the site itself, Mr. Mayor, I know that you have frequently said, why can't we use the site for the GP surgery and other things? And that's sort of coupled with the supplementary. The sad answer is that the NHS has been fragmented into silos, and there's something called NHS estates, I think it's called, who have got their firm grip on some part of the real estate in order to fund good things elsewhere in the region and in the county. But I can't help praying in aid a document we were regaled with quite recently, which is the Community Health and Wellbeing Plan for Melton Borough, which includes the community, the district-wide community health and wellbeing plans. And there's a lovely bullet point here which says the best start in life, the best start in life. So we've got this lovely thick strategic glossy document that says we're going to do all these things, and there's some lovely diagrams and flow charts and pictures. And I would have thought that the best start in life would embrace the postnatal elements that were described by Councillor Cliff. I don't have any firm knowledge because it's very difficult to get anything out of the NHS, but I think it's something that I can couple with the question that I pose to the NHS trusts as when I write, and I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. Item 8, motions on notice. No motions on notice have been received. Item 9, I will now invite the leader, Councillor Alnett, to present the report on the appointment of Monitoring Officer, Assistant Director for Governance and Democracy.
Yeah, I think I can stand all right now. Well, I formally propose the recommendation on the employment, and I look to a second, but there's something I'd like to say once it's seconded, if I may.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor
Thank you, Mr.
Graham.
Mayor. I have pleasure in seconding the recommendation.
Yeah, I would like to thank the support we had in going through the process. Appointing is not easy, but I was very happy that it was done really very well indeed. And I want to couple with that thanks, I suppose prematurely, to our locum, our temporary monitoring officer, who has done a sterling job and will continue to do so, I feel certain, for the next couple of months before we have the new person in post. It's worth saying that it's for him, it's a return to old ground. And I know, talking to staff over the past few days, there are one or two still around who remember him. I won't say with some affection, that's the wrong word, but some contentment that he appears to be rejoining us. So that's a nice circular story, isn't it? Both for him and for us. And I thank Councillor Graham for his support throughout.
I'll now open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand to indicate whether they wish to speak.
We will be in a moment. Yeah, it's just to speak. Yes.
Okay. This is just, yeah. Do any members want to make any comments? Councillor Higgins.
Yeah, it's just a quick one. From probably full council, which is this body, delegates the authority to the employment committee. So I'd be just really encouraged to hear what the members of that committee thought, because this is a really important role. And Alison, you've done a great job with it on the interim, but I'd like to get, because it is important, I don't think we should just necessarily rubber stamp it through. I know, Ed, you'll have kittens if we don't, but that all said, I'd like to get a little bit more of the feeling of what the committee thought of this appointment. So, and I think we'll be doing ourselves an injustice not to know that, but equally to the potential candidate should we go with the recommendation, if that's okay.
I should defer to a future mother-in-law to put him in his place, I think.
It's not really a question, just to say that the employment committee thoroughly sort of interviewed the gentleman in sort of Clive Tobin. We were all unanimous in our assessment of him. I think everybody went down the same route, and there was nobody that actually sort of had different views. But before we declared those views, we kept them to ourselves. We didn't talk amongst each other, but we all came up with the same conclusion, that he was a very sound person to take up the role of monitoring officer.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, when I read about this, so it's not really a question again, but when I read about this, I thought that it was really great that he was really put through his paces, and I really believe, as I was reading this, that he is the right person for the job. I just wanted to say that.
Any other questions, please? No. We will now proceed to a vote. Please use the electronic voting system in front of you to choose either for, against, or abstain. Yeah.
stepped out, so.
Yeah.
That's unanimous then, isn't it?
I can confirm that is a unanimous vote then. Thank you. Item 10, local plan 2011 to 2036. Councillor Orson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Can the monitoring officer note that myself and Simon, Councillor Orson Junior, are leaving the room for 10, 11 and 12 of them. Thank you very much.
I will now invite the Deputy Leader, Councillor Glancy, to present the Melton Local Plan 2011 to 2036 5-year review. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. To start with, I can't emphasise enough the importance of this item. I also can't believe we're at the point where we need to review the local plan. It feels as if it was just only 2 years ago we adopted our plan, but in fact, the plan is now 5 years old next month. The first item is reviewing the local plan review and update. The review commenced following council approval in April 2022. Officers worked with members and officers across the council to review the policies. This paper is a culmination of this work and fulfills the statutory requirement to review the policies. All policies reviewed against the NPPF, planning practice guidance, monitoring and performance, and day-to-day use, including appeal decisions. The Planning Advisory Service reviewed the evidence base and assisted officers to understand the key pieces of evidence necessary to be updated and advised on the first local development scheme approved at Cabinet in late 2023. Outcome is that most of the development management policies will require an update. However, the overall strategic policies relating to housing targets and allocations continue to be appropriate. Council are asked to approve the conclusions of the review of the Melton Local Plan at Appendix A. Council are also asked to consider the revised terms of reference for the working group, which is to be expanded to 9 members to allow for greater representation and resilience going forward. And that's at Appendix B in your paper pack. Members will note that the County Council have written to Melton Borough Council, and that letter is Appendix C, giving their overall support for the continued strategy of the Melton Local Plan. If members approve this paper, this will mark the end of the review period and the commencement of the update of the policies of the Melton Local Plan with members. Members will review following the decision on this paper. And finally, I would like to thank the local plans team for getting us to this important point in the life of our local plan. I therefore propose that Council approves items 2.1, 2.2 and 2.3 on page 14 of the report. Thank you.
Can I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to thank the proposer for such an in-depth commentary on it. So that a lot of what I need to say has already been said. So thank you for that. That all said is, as a representative of the Somerby ward, the Somerby Parish Council did write to me as their elected representative to make sure that any review in the local plan did respect their specific neighbourhood plan, and I'm not going to mention any other referendum that might be happening tonight. That all said, and I did seek assurances from the leader and officers, and I understand that with this review, it's going to respect all neighbourhood plans that are in place. And as a member of the planning committee, I do find neighbourhood plans really helpful in decision making. So I think that's going to be really sound how the Melton local plan and any neighbourhood plan that's in our borough are working hand in hand still. Equally, what I would like to say is when the Melton local plan first started, I wasn't even elected member. I was just a member of the public, and we used to hold workshops in here. And I think in any review, and I really welcome. So thank you to the Cabinet and Councillor Glancy for expanding the local plan working group to 9 members, because I think it's really important to get as many voices in that room debating that all out. And equally, I think we've got to make sure that the public have their say in this as well, and how policies are affecting them where they think it's going well, which I think a large part of the policies are, where they're thinking it's not actually as they're intended. And we had a debate about that at the last planning meeting. Again, that's in a particular area we probably shouldn't be mentioning, so I won't say which that was. But also is for one on my own heart is policy SS3, and the reason being is policy SS3 I think is really stifling some of the rural villages in the southern area, because we have a more remote area there, and what I'm getting lobbied on quite a lot and still getting lobbied on is younger families trying to get housing in the rural area because they live and work there. They know what it's about. They don't want to live in Melton. Some of them don't want to necessarily live in a service centre, such as some of it. They want to live in and around the villages that they've come from. And SS3, I think, stifles that. And I don't think it would be remiss of me to remind the Director of Growth and Regeneration. Obviously, Thorpe Satchel is one of those ones and certainly wants the Fox Inn to be regenerated. But SS3 sort of is riding in its face on that. And I know the people who are looking to redevelop the Fox Inn at Thorpe Satchel hopefully are going to be putting an application in, but we need SS3 to be more ingenuitive to allow that investment to take place. So it's reflective of what the local community is asking for, but equally not necessarily to make a decision that happens elsewhere in the borough and to impact them unduly. But yes, hopefully if SS3 can work and we can, with that investment with the Fox Inn at Thorpe Satchel, I know my parish council chairman of Twyford thought will be very, very happy with this council. So I look forward to working on that. And again, thank everybody that, and it is really important, as the leader said in his announcements, that if you are asked to work on that working group, please attend, because we need to know the views from your community. Because while I understand how Somerby works and other areas work, those other members will know how their areas work, and I can learn from that. We hopefully will get a really good local plan between now and 2036. So I do second this and recommend it for approval. Thank you.
I'll now open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand to indicate if they wish to speak, please. No, thank you. We will now proceed to the vote. Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, there is some part in here. It's at the end of the report, or near the end of the report, where it says about people debt, to do with debt, and to sort of I'm not sure what person it is because I can't find it on my screen at the moment, to allow an officer to, instead of allowing to underwrite, or to write off, I should say, to write off a debt was 2,500, but it's now going up to 5,000. Can you explain what this debt is? Because if it's to do with
this is a later item in the report.
Oh yes, that's it. Thank you. Got it.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. I just wondered what the debt would be for. Is it for rent?
Well, this
arrears?
relates to item 13 when we get to it.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, please? Thank you. Well, we'll now proceed to the electronic voting system. Choose either for, against, or abstain, or
Yeah, hi, I think it's safe if we refer to go back to hands for now.
okay, then we'll go back to the manual system then, please. If we can, a show of hands, please. Four. Item 11, Local Development Scheme Update, September 23. I'll now invite the Deputy Leader, Councillor Glancy, to present the Local Development Scheme Update, September 23.
Thank you, Mayor. This follows on from item 10, the local development scheme. A local development scheme, abbreviated LDS, is a timetable of work going forwards for the local plans team, also setting out the proposed timetable for the formal consultations that must take place in order to update the local plan under the current regulations. The plan must be submitted to the Inspectorate by the 30th of June 2025 at the very latest, which is a very tight time frame. Having a local development scheme is a statutory duty. This is an update to the LDS approved at Cabinet in December 2022. It is represented to Council at Appendix A to this paper. The LDS also suggests that the Council would embark on a new style local plan once the update has been through the examination in public. This is to prove the Council's commitment to update the strategic policies that are not subject of this local plan update. Initial external consultations have commenced with prescribed bodies, neighbouring local authorities and county councils under the existing legal duty to cooperate in relation to the outcome of the local plan review. The next paper will set out the Council's approach to formal public consultation. Members are requested to delegate to the Director for Growth and Regeneration, alongside the portfolio holder, the ability to make in-year changes to the LDS to ensure that the update can progress at pace. I therefore have pleasure to propose that Council approves the recommendations at 2.1 and 2.2 on page 64 of your report pack.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, very happy to second, thank you.
I'll now open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand to indicate if they wish to speak, please. Nope. Thank you. I confirm no members wish to speak. We'll now proceed to the vote. Over to you, Adam. Local plan update, issues and options consultation. I will now invite the Deputy Leader, Councillor Glancy, to present the local plan update, issues and options consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This paper follows the previous two and now progresses to ask members for commencing the first formal public consultation in respect of the local plan update. This is known as the Issues and Options or Regulation 18. This will be a formal public consultation, which will be for a minimum of 6 weeks and will set out the policies for updating, identifying the issues with the policies, the various options that have been considered and the preferred options. All stakeholders will then have the opportunity make comments on this, which we can account for when moving forward and drafting the updated plan. Members are being asked to delegate authority to approve the commencement of the consultation on the issues and options and sustainable appraisal to the portfolio holder once the document has been finalised with the working group. This is expected to be in the next couple of weeks. Excuse me. The draft issues and options document has been produced and will be circulated to members of the working group immediately following Council's approval of this paper. It is imperative to make an early start on the consultations to ensure that the update can be submitted to the Inspectorate by the 30th of June 2025 at the latest. The paper sets out at paragraph 4.9 the new and updated evidence that is currently under production. This consultation will be followed by a further consultation in late 2024, where the policies update will be published, and there will be a new opportunity for people to have their say. Members of the working group will be informed through the whole process. It goes without saying, I would like to thank the local plans team again for getting us to this important point. I therefore propose Council approves the recommendations at 2.1 and 2.2 of the report on page 18. Thank you.
You have a seconder, please.
Yeah, happy to second, and just ever so quickly is in regards to, I think on page 81 and 4.9, it sort of suggests to members what some of the changes this recommendation is asking of members, and such, for example, publication of a new playing pitch strategy, to, the indoor sports facilities, and obviously that's being debated in a different realm as well. The Audit and Standards Committee had a very good debate this week, and we were talking about obviously the which is on C here, like such as the strategic land availability assessment. And as the Section 151 officer did tell the Audit and Standards Committee this week, obviously business rates is significantly important for this area. And a lot of people will say is, well, Melton's growing with houses, where are people going to work? And so we've got to have a look at that as how the land has changed, land, no pun, sorry about that there, but how it's all changed, especially in terms of all the economic headwinds that we've had, not only since the pandemic, but obviously interest rates have completely changed. Inflation is running away at the moment, and we do want to make sure that we've got the right robust information and data, that our local plan is sound, and to support our partners such as the County Council, especially with the Southern Relief Road. And on a personal point of view, I very much look forward to the publication of the local housing needs assessment and how that's changed from the 2016 document that we had, because that went down on a ward by ward basis, and you could see how the demographics per ward had changed from 2016, from 10 years ago backwards. So it's going to be fascinating to see how all our wards have changed from that document until when this document's republished. So very happy to second, and I'll be voting for it. Thank you.
I now open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand if they wish to speak, please. Nope. Thank you. We will now proceed to the vote. Over to Adam. We're on, yeah. Yeah, that is unanimous. Thank you. Councillors Orson, can return to the room, please. Thank you. I will now invite the Deputy Leader, Councillor Glancy, to present a report on the proposed amendments to the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we'll all be pleased with the last item from me tonight. And in August 2023, the Constitution Review Working Group were asked to consider a number of amendments to the Constitution. The proposed amendments were to address changes to staffing, the staffing structure, anomalies, inconsistencies, and to improve clarity and efficiency in decision-making. The proposed changes were endorsed by the Constitution Review Working Group. Just like to add, in relation to the write-off limits, after discussion and further to receiving additional information from the Chief Finance Officer, it was agreed that increasing the limit from £2,500 to £5,000 was reasonable and would allow the efficiency in writing off historic debts. Members are asked to note that the changes to the write-off amounts in the officer's scheme of delegation are actually in relation to paragraph 61 and not paragraph 63 as detailed in the appendix. For clarity, the paper showing all proposed track changes have been provided for you. I therefore have great pleasure in recommending proposed recommendation at 2.1 of this report. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to formally second.
I'll now open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand to indicate whether they wish to speak. Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, got it in the right order this time. Yes, it's to do with the S151 officer to write off debt from 2,500 to 5,000. And I'm a bit worried about this because is it to do with rent arrears? And if it is, if a person, obviously owes this money and leaves and then comes back in years to come, will their name be flagged up in case they want to rent a council premises? And would the council then be able to claim the money that they were in arrears with? If you can understand that.
Ask Councillor Glancy to respond, please.
Can I ask the section 151 officer to answer that question? Thank you.
As Director for Housing, if it's okay, I'll come in on the question specific to rent. So there are set criteria for how and when we can write off arrears. And when it comes to rent arrears, there are certain steps that we would have had to have gone through before we would pursue a write-off arrangement. In terms of people coming back onto the housing register and accessing housing, it would be assessed on a case-by-case basis. So we wouldn't apply a blanket position because it would depend on personal circumstances. But yes, we would be able to access that record. However, once the debts have been written off, we wouldn't then pursue that. So we'd look at it on a case-by-case basis. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions, please? Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Merging paragraph 4 and paragraph 15. Paragraph 4 is a £50,000. Paragraph 15 is 10. It seems excessive to come up with a figure of £150,000. For eliminate complication and provide clarity. I don't think it does either of those things. I think £150,000 is far too much at a time when it is important that we monitor expenditure. And therefore, I would like to see these figures move back to £50,000 and merged. I'm also very concerned for general reserves to overall annual limit of £150,000. Now, is an annual limit 365 days from the last time it was approved, or in next year's case, 366, being a leap year? Is it the 1st of January to the 31st of December? Is it the 1st of April to the 31st of March, which is our financial year? It seems a very strange thing to have suddenly appeared for no reason whatsoever. And if it has to be there, I would propose it was the 1st of April to the 31st of March, our financial year. So I would like to move the amalgamation of paragraph 4 and 15, have a limit of £50,000 during a council financial year. Yeah.
Thank you. Could I ask Dawn if she could make a comment, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So previously there was this amount of 50,000, but it was individual amounts, so there was no overall limit, and that was the concern. So that's why we've written it the way we have, because previously there could be any number of £50,000, whereas what we're saying is the amounts could be smaller than that, they could be larger, but there's a cap on that in any 1 year of 150,000. The proposal and the suggestion about aligning it to a financial year is probably a good one, and that's the way we would have generally monitored it anyway in a financial year.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would like to keep on that in my motion that is the financial year. And I just feel in this time of really being careful with our finances, but an overall limit of 50,000 is really more appropriate. And anything over that will come back to the cabinet to decide.
Mr. Mayor, apologies. I just want to make sure that we're clear, just so I don't misunderstand the position as well. Councillor Graham referred to the current item 15. Can you just confirm, Dawn, what the current limit under that delegation is?
The current limit is 50,000,
No,
but
sorry, on item 15.
I think the track changes seem a bit odd, because my understanding is I'd have to go back to the substantive copy was that there was a limit, an individual limit, but not an overall limit. Cabinet has a limit of 200,000 and the reason an overall limit of 200,000 and the reason we picked 150 is obviously an officer's delegation needs to be lower than Cabinet's.
Councillor Graham.
For clarification, on our latest constitution, paragraph 15, to incur one-off expenditure to support the needs of organisations' corporate priorities from earmarked and general reserves up to a limit of £10,000. We're now merging at, so it could be 150,000. I think that is excessive. Thank you.
Councillor Atherton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to support the proposal to reduce that limit from £150,000 down to a more reasonable £50,000, given the financial kind of state of affairs at the moment. I'd also like to draw your attention to the table of proposed amendments where the rewritten clause 15 does talk about an overall annual limit, where the retyped list talks about an overall limit and omits the word annual. So are we talking about an annual limit, or are we talking about an overall limit on an individual case-by-case basis?
That's an officer to respond, please.
Just give us a moment, Mr.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor. We're just clarifying the position. I'll be right with you in a moment.
Mr. Mayor, I feel this should have been picked up earlier. Can I move that we defer the whole item to the next thing, and it would be referred back to Cabinet to look at and come back with a report that makes.
Mr. Mayor, what I'd suggest is, if it's possible, I'm conscious there's other items that have been through the Constitutional Review Working Group. There's clearly some question about the accuracy of the numbers and the rationale for joining them, and for the new delegation. Might suggest, rather than withdrawing the whole item, that element of the report is withdrawn and reverted back to the Constitutional Review Working Group, such that it can be reconsidered, re-looked at, allowing then the other substantive items to still proceed. Mr. Mayor, you've got Councillor Allnutt wishing to speak.
Councillor Allnutt.
I accept the spirit in which Councillor Graham is prosecuting his point of view on these details are important. The fact remains that the motion has been moved and seconded. Now, alterations to that should be amendments to it, shouldn't it? Now, the Chief Executive has advised, and I always take advice from the Chief Executive, that perhaps we could take the bulk of the document if the mover and the seconder of the motion agree that the items which are in dispute could be deferred in the way that the chief executive suggested. I, for one, I agree totally with the comment about the financial year bit, and I think my colleague does as well. That makes complete sense. But I think we're struggling with some of the definitions of the numbers as to whether they are single items or accumulative items, and I think that needs to be resolved. So it's, of course, it's in the hands of the proposer and the seconder, and not me. I'm making a contribution, and I hope that, and I can be rejected, of course.
Councillor Glancy, can you make a comment, please? As a proposer.
Yes, quite happy to make a comment. I think if you read the whole of number 15 on the appendix, it does say that it is in consultation with the leader and deputy leader. It's not just something that the sort of an officer can do on their own, or the chief exec can do on his own, which is why we put those sort of safeguards in. And also, when you're looking at the £150,000, yes, it does seem a lot, and you think, oh gosh, that is a huge amount of money. But it was originally £10,000. I totally agree with that. But it wasn't an overall limit of £10,000. So you could end up with £10,000, which is why we put the £150,000 limit in there to restrict what potentially could happen. So I don't know whether you want to review your proposal to amend the proposal.
So Graham.
Mr. Mayor, this is in no way personal. This is our constitution, and therefore could refer to any leader, deputy leader at any time. So it is important that we get it right. And the fact that it may not have been, we could have put in lots of little bits. But we are actually looking at what we've got in front of us. And I think my main point is 150,000 at a time when really we should be keeping an eye on every bit of expenditure is an excessive amount. I would be happier with a £50,000 limit, and I would like it linked to a financial year. Then anything over and above that can go to cabinet. That is no problem. They can approve it, but we just need these checks and balances. And I just feel at this time, the pressure's on us. It is more important than ever. Thank you.
Councillor Glancy, can you respond again, please?
Yes, thank you. I think you've explained that very, very well, Councillor Graham. So I do agree with linking it with the financial year. I think that is totally in order. And also, I think I will have sort of on this one, agree with the £50,000 for the moment, and we can actually take that out of our proposal on the table. Thank you.
Does the seconder agree with that?
I'm only hesitating because we did discuss this at some length in the Constitution Working Group. I understand, I understand where Councillor Graham and Councillor Atherton, for that matter, are coming from, and clearly we want to have prudent management of the finances. But I think the Constitution Working Group saw this as a means of tidying up a very untidy arrangement, which allowed frequent dippings into the pot, if I might use that term, without any overall limit. But on the basis that Councillor Glancy has already indicated the willingness to accept the amendment, I will also do so.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
So,
Mr. Mayor, just to confirm then, so we have a slightly altered recommendation, or sorry, substance to the recommendation in terms of the content of this item. So on that officer scheme of delegation, that amendment to paragraph 15 would relate to 50,000. and would relate as well to the financial year, as well as the measure by which we would assess the value that is spent out of that allowance. So just confirming that's the position, and I've seen nods to that effect. So I think we're clear on that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Graham.
I'd like to thank Councillor Clancy very much for taking us on board. I agree with Chief Executive, apart from the fact, but I feel that 4 and 15 should be amalgamated.
Yes. Yeah. Would remain the substance. Absolutely. Yeah.
Councillor Higgins.
Yeah, it's just ever so quickly, and I think as the seconder said, I know this was the Constitution Working Group, which is obviously cross-party about that. I don't sit on it, but I think it's important that this is changed, because I think, as Councillor Glancy said, if it's not changed, then you can have 30 lots of £10,000 and 150,000 or 1,000 that's gone straight out anyway. So I think it is important that it's voted on with the overall annual limit, and I think that's great that it's the financial year. But to be honest, if we've got a working group as well, I still think the working group should probably consider this point again, and then if through that secondary debate, because there obviously was a reason why they've recommended this to full council, but I think we've got to vote for it as amended, get that in, and if the Constitution Working Group wants to bring it back, then I think we can do that. But as I say, I think that's the importance of working groups, is people who attend them, and they're informing us. And as I say, we've got to trust our colleagues on those working groups. Thank you.
Any further questions, please, from any members? No. So we will now vote on the amendment. If somebody could actually read the amendment out, please.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Councillor Ornett.
Yeah, as I understood it, Mr. Mayor, the proposer and seconder had accepted the amendment into the substantive motion. So we just go straight to the substantive motion.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're going to, the vote is therefore to approve the proposed amendments to the Constitution as detailed in the appendix, as amended, as discussed and amended.
Are all members quite clear on why we're voting? And do anybody else want to ask any more questions? No. Thank you. We'll now proceed to the vote then, please. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
I can confirm that this is a unanimous vote. Thank you. Thank you. This is the end of the meeting. With no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 20:20.
8:20.
Eight. Yeah. Yes, right.
Members, ladies and gentlemen, can I please ask